Ωραία. Καλησπέρα και πάλι σε όλους. Ετοιμαζόμαστε για την τελευταία ομιλία στο track 1. Η επόμενη ομιλήτριά μας θα μιλήσει στα αγγλικά, οπότε θα μιλήσω και εγώ στα αγγλικά για να την καλήσω. Σας υπενθυμίζω ότι οι ερωτήσεις προς την ομιλήτριά μας θα γίνουν στο τέλος της ομιλίας της, αλλά μπορείτε να τις προετοιμάζετε καθ' όλη τη διάρκεια από τη λειτουργία Q&A ή από το Raise Hands. Και οι ερωτήσεις θα γίνουν στο τέλος. So, I'm switching to English right now. I see that we have a late minute change to the title of the presentation. It will be how you are going to rank #1 on the Google search engine results page. Okay, sorry, that was the silly joke. I had to make it. So, Marieke will be giving us a presentation on how to improve the SEO fitness of your website. And we're very happy to have you with us, Marieke, and the stage is yours.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to share my screen. Yes. I think everyone can see my screen now. How to improve the SEO fitness of your site. That's my talk going to be about. My name is Marieke van Rakt and I am the CEO of Yoast. And I'm really happy to be speaking here at WordCamp Greece. But it would be much more amazing if I was allowed to really travel to Greece and be here in person. So I'll make a promise that as we can manage, I would be honored to visit a WordCamp Greece in person. So, the CEO of Yoast, that's me. Yoast, of course, is most famous for our Yoast SEO plugin, which helps sites to rank high in Google. It's really hard to promise that #1 results, but, well, you can always aim for it. That's what we do. So next to our plugin, or actually part of our premium product, we have our Yoast SEO Academy with a lot of SEO courses to teach people the basics and a little bit more than just the basics of SEO. And today I'm going to talk about SEO fitness. So I'll start off by explaining what SEO fitness is, how you can always assess whether or not your SEO or your site is SEO fit. How do you know whether or not you're actually in good shape? And most importantly, what can you do about it? So we'll look at some practical tips or quick wins that'll really allow you to improve the SEO fitness of your website. And then I'll conclude by talking about how to stay SEO fit. Because it's the same as it is with physical fitness. If you want to remain healthy and fit, you need to stay on top of it. So at the end of my talk, I'll give you some pointers on how to remain in good SEO shape. So let's start. What is SEO fitness? Well, that of course has to do with how well your site is optimized. But it also has to do with the fact that the internet is changing and growing. All your sites have been around for a while, and sites get older. And of course, they're updated and they receive a nice shiny look every now and then. But in many cases, content that is posted many years ago remains on the website. And that means that sites are getting bigger and bigger and keep adding content. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. You know, Google loves authority. So being around a long time, that really pays off. But you need to make sure that Google still can find its way around your site. And that's what SEO fitness is all about. Making sure that search engines like Google can easily index, understand, and rank your website. So why are sites not as SEO fit as they could be? What is causing sites to be in bad SEO shape? Well, there are a number of reasons, and some of the reasons have to do with the site itself. I already talked about sites getting bigger, and that means that Google has to crawl through more pages. That'll make it harder, especially if the internal links, the ones that Google follows in order to crawl through your site, are that good. Google will just have a hard time finding out what content is most important on a website. And perhaps you've been writing a lot about similar topics. And that'll lead to Google getting confused. It will have a hard time deciding which pages it should rank. And then if sites don't have a proper schema implementation and have a poor quality of text, that are also things that cause SEO fitness to be weak. At the same time, SEO fitness is also becoming more important because Google is getting smarter and better and more demanding. You just need to do more now in order to please Google. Google has become amazingly smart in reading and understanding texts. That means you cannot get away anymore with crappy texts. You just need to do better. If you search for pasta, Google will understand that spaghetti and lasagna are types of pasta. Google knows how words and concepts are related to each other. And I have to give this to you. Google isn't that good in the Greek language than it is in English yet. That's just because there are fewer people that speak Greek than there are that speak English. So Greek never has been a priority to Google. The fact that you also have a different alphabet makes it a little bit harder as well, I presume. But also for the Dutch language, which is a small language area as well, like we see that Google isn't as good as it is in English, but it is getting there. And that means that you Greek people have just a little bit of more time to really get SEO fit. But all the things I'm saying in this presentation will account for Greek as well. So Google can understand if I search in English, but I'm located in the Netherlands. So I'm using a different language than the location I'm in. I wrote a typo in this example, and I did not use the most common keyword because the most common keyword is car insurance and not vehicle insurance. Google still understands. Overall, the algorithm of Google is trying to mimic a human. It tries to read texts like a human being. And as Google becomes more and more capable of understanding and scanning text in a human-like way, the demands of a text also rise. And we've known for a while that Google reads text, and it's getting better and better in parsing text and matching words. Also for Greek. But Google is not smart in everything. Google has a really hard time figuring out what is what on a page. That's something that computers aren't that good at. Google is just not that smart in understanding structure or understanding importance, knowing what is most important and knowing what is of less important. That's something you'll need to help Google with. So in order to show these kinds of results in the search result pages, Google needs to have input. You need to tell Google, this is an ingredient. This is the preparation time, because Google will not understand that. So that's why you need schema. Schema is a way of helping Google grasp the meaning of your page. Schema is code that lets search engines know the meaning of your content. We refer to schema as an SEO power tool. You'll need to have these power tools in order to remain SEO fit. So Google's really smart in texts. That's why you need to write awesome texts. But then the things that Google is not that good at, Google found compensating strategies. And schema is helping Google. And that means that you need to use schema in order to please Google. So SEO fitness is really important and is becoming more and more important. On the one hand, because sites are getting bigger and older and need to remain fit because of that. And because Google's demands are higher. What was good enough 10 years ago just isn't good enough now. So are you curious how SEO fit your website is? We have an SEO fitness quiz on Yoast.com. Just search for the content SEO fitness quiz. We built one for the content SEO fitness of your website, and we're currently building to develop one for the technical fitness as well. So what you can do is just fill out some questions, and then you'll know, well, am I fit? Do I need to do something in order to improve myself? And that will probably help you to know where to begin. So let's look at some practical SEO fitness tips. What can you do to get fit really quickly? So I'm going to talk you through 3 ways to get SEO fit. And these are all things that'll help you with your fitness. The first thing is to improve your schema implementation. Already it's about that. It's a really important part of Google's strategy in order to, the things they're not that good at, to help people help them. That's the thing they're doing. So when we were developing our approach to schema at Yoast, we did a lot of research. And our research showed that sometimes the structured data was not implemented optimally. So we would test a site's code with a structured data testing tool that's now called the rich results testing tool. And we would get something like this. 6 schema pieces on that page, but they lack context. So to Google, it's not clear what their relationship is. How are these things connected? So at Yoast, we fixed this rather technical problem. We don't only describe content with scattered pieces of schema. With our implementation, we connect the puzzle pieces into a story. So we don't have one blob that says, this is an article on the page, and then another one that says, this is a person on the page. Instead, we tie everything together in a structured graph. So we'll automatically generate the right schema. You don't have to do anything. It's just getting SEO fit without working out. The only thing we need is some input. So site owner has to give us some input, choose whether your website represents a person or an organization, and then our tool will provide the necessary schema output that search engines need. So we'll automatically generate the right schema output. So what's in it for you? What do you get with this schema thingy? Well, with the right schema implementation, and you'll have to have a good website as well, because otherwise you'll never get those. But you might get Google to display your website in a knowledge panel like this. This is what it can look like for a person or a company. And that's a really nice way to stand out. And you can also control schema on your posts and pages. So by default, we automatically have web page schema to describe your pages and article schema to describe your posts, but you can adjust those in the search settings. And you can also, if you, for example, are working on a contact page, you can indicate that you're working on a contact page, and then we'll make sure, the plugin will make sure that the right schema output is generated. So, and we also have these FAQ and how-to blocks that'll make it easier to maybe appear in results like this. So schema is a really important aspect of getting an SEO shape, and it's something that more and more people are doing, and you should be doing that as well. So the next thing you can do is improve your internal linking. Really important to remember that Google follows links. And that means that Google follows your internal links to crawl for the pages on your website. And if a website has lots and lots of pages, Google needs your internal links to crawl through all these pages. So improving your internal linking structure is one of the most important ways of keeping your website SEO fit. It's a way of telling Google which pages are most important. Because if a page gets lots and lots of links, Google will come there pretty often. But if a page gets no or little links, Google will not come there really often. So the way you structure your website, the way you internally link one page to another is really important. Because the pages that have a lot of links pointing towards them, those will appear important to Google. But pages that don't have links pointing towards them, well, they won't seem that important in the eyes of Google. So following links gives Google really important clues about the relationship and about the importance of your articles. So where you should start is by thinking which pages are the most important ones. And SEO people often refer to the most important articles as cornerstone articles. And these usually are informative articles. But I think they also could be landing pages. It could also be product pages. You should think about, if you could show your audience 4 or 5 articles, which one would you show? Which pages do you want to rank with? Which pages should your audience find and read? So That's the first step you need to take in your internal linking structure. So after you've decided which ones are your most important ones, you get to do the process of making a cornerstone approach to your internal linking. So let's imagine that one of the articles you like the most is a page about site structure. Your most important articles, the ultimate guide to site structure. If you want to rank for the term site structure, you'll probably have more articles about that subject. If you do not have those, I would advise you to write some. So you'll need a lot of different articles, each focusing on a different aspect of the thing you want to be found for. In my case, site structure. These different articles focus all on a different aspect. So I wrote an article about site structure FAQ, an article about internal linking, an article about the importance of site structure, best practices. So all of these different blog posts link with text links to the cornerstone, our old guide to site structure. So we all link from the less important articles to the most important articles within the same niche. Such a structure in which specific articles, we often call those long tail articles, link to the most important pages, show the search engines which article is the most important on your website, because they all point towards it. And this will eventually lead to the ranking of your most important articles in the search engines. So all of the long tail articles will help you to rank your most important competitive one. So you should link from the tail, the long tail, to the head, to the most important landing pages. And I will see you thinking now virtually that you could just add some links towards that one you really want to rank with, and then you're good to go. But this only works if you link contextual. And this means that your links should make sense, because we know that Google is able to read and understand texts. If you're just adding random internal links to your site, this will not work. The link should actually be useful to your audience. So that means if you're writing a post about ballet shoes, a link post should be in context. You could be linking to a post about ballet lessons or about hip-hop shoes, but linking from ballet shoes to SEO link building probably will not make sense. So aside from the cornerstone content approach, you should try to build hierarchy in your website. You should also look at orphaned content. Orphaned content is content that doesn't get any links from other posts or pages on the website. And as a result of that, this content is really hard to find for Google and for your visitors as well, because posts and pages need internal links to find them, because otherwise they're not findable. So if you have orphaned content, you should think, is this content something I want people to read? Do I still like it? If that's the case, you should make sure to link towards it. But maybe it's no longer valid. Think of an announcement. We at Yoast, we have a Yoast call, and maybe we wrote an announcement of an event that's long been gone. Then you should delete and redirect it and make room for other articles. So check your orphaned content, and tools like the text link counter, you can easily check how many links are pointing towards your most important ones, but also if there are any articles on your website that don't have any links or hardly have any links. So we've talked about schema and we've talked about internal linking. The last thing we are going to talk about is improving your content. I'm going to talk about 3 demands of high quality content. But before I can talk about this, I want to talk about something else that's important. The first step in any SEO copywriting strategy should always be keyword research. SEO always starts with keyword research. You should know what your audience is searching for. You need to think about it, and you need to make sure that you're focusing on the right keywords. And providing you're focusing on the right search terms, high quality content has 3 major demands. Your content needs to be original, it needs to be readable, and it needs to be findable. Let's start with being original. You should just make sure that you write something that your audience actually wants to read. it should add something to all the junk that's already out there on the internet. It should be fresh, new, original. And don't just write because you need to for your SEO, but you have to have like a story to tell or a vision to. It should just be something that people will want to read. And then we come to readability. And that's important because if you want the message you have with your content to come across, you make sure that it's nice and easy to read, that people actually enjoy your reading and understand your reading. So how can you improve readability? Well, the structure of your text is really important. If the structure of your text is clear, it will help your readers understand the text much better. So make sure to think about the order in which you want to address topic. Present topics in a logical order. Use subheadings. Make sure to write clear paragraphs. Lots of people just use spaces whenever it feels right, and they don't really think about their paragraphs. And a paragraph is actually a group of sentences that belongs together. And you know, those first paragraphs, or the first sentences of a paragraph, that's what your readers will read even when they're just scanning through a text. So always start a paragraph with the most important sentence, and then explain or elaborate on that sentence. This helps the reader to grasp the concept of your article just by reading those first sentences. And research has shown that if people are scanning through a text, they'll probably read the first sentences of paragraphs. So you should make use of that knowledge. Try to write short sentences. Shorter sentences are much easier to read and understand than longer ones. It will make your text so much easier to understand, especially if you have a hard topic. Shorter sentences could make it easier to understand for people. So we've talked about original content and readable content. But you're all here because you want your content to be findable, right? You want to turn up in the search engines. So the Yoast plugin helps you to analyze your text and get it SEO proof and SEO fit. These things all really help. Use it in the subheadings, your keywords, and write an awesome meta description. However, optimizing for the search engines should never compromise your readability, because that'll be bad for your rankings. And don't get me wrong, I still believe in keywords, or at least I strongly believe in doing keyword research. You should find out what your audience is searching for. You should use the words your audience is using. That's just basic marketing. But the exact matching of keywords becomes less and less important, also in Greek. Overall, we know that the algorithm of Google is trying to mimic a human. It tries to read text like a human being. So trying to optimize your text for a very specific and lengthy key phrase, that feels a bit outdated. So you should make sure to use plurals and past tense and use synonyms. So optimize your text for a certain keyword, but never overdo it, and make sure to add a lot of words that are logically related to the keyword as well. Don't make it too much into a trick. Have focus, but try to write text in a natural way. And we're really trying to optimize our plugin to make sure that we can do these kinds of things, and we can do it in English, but we can't do it in Greek yet. And I've made sure to put it on top of our priority list as I was speaking here. I was like, we need to do something in Greek as well. So we're working on this and making it easier to get your text optimized in a natural way as well. We should be able to do that for Greek, I think. We have Greek working with us. We're going to do that. So how do you quickly improve the SEO fitness on your site? Focus on schema, internal linking, and great content. But I don't want to be the party pooper here. Getting in good shape is never a one-time thing. It's the same as it is with physical fitness. You need to develop a long-term strategy, a long-term routine, because otherwise you'll just gain the pounds you've lost. So let's look at some tips on how to keep the good work. How do you make sure to develop a long-term SEO fitness routine? So craft a to-do list. Make a list of your plans and your goals. What are you going to work on? You're going to improve your texts. Are you going to improve your internal linking structure? Perhaps you solve some orphaned content. Just make a list of these tasks and then reserve some time in your calendar in order to really get those things done. Sometimes you can automate some of the tasks you regularly do. And for all other tasks, you should develop a routine. Perhaps you could start each quarter of a year or each month with a specific task. Just find a way to incorporate your SEO tasks in your work routine. SEO is just a part of your site maintenance, or site maintenance is SEO. But that sounds really boring, and that's why I'd like to frame it differently. Site maintenance is site love, and you should give your site the love it deserves. So what should you remember from this talk? The demands of SEO and SEO fitness have risen. You can get SEO fit by focusing on schema, on internal linking, and on writing great content. And you should develop a routine and make SEO part of your site maintenance. Site maintenance is site love, and you should give your site the love it deserves. Thank you. And if you have any questions, I would be really willing to answer them. I will stop. Yeah.
Thank you very, very much for the lovely presentation, Marieke.
You're very welcome.
Let's see if we can have some questions from the audience. One thing that troubles me about the schema that you mentioned actually is, could it be manipulated for Google? I mean, one could say it's just, simple fields that anybody can write anything they want in there. Could we just fool Google by writing anything we want in it?
Perhaps, but it will never be a good long-term strategy. So and in Greek, I don't know if you can fool Google a bit in Greek, but in the end, you will always lose the game because Google is focusing on making the experience for the end user as good as possible. And I think for a long-term strategy, you should also always focus on the same thing. Yeah. But I'm not going to say that tricks never work, because they sometimes do, but they never work in the long run. Yeah, I'm so sorry.
No, truth must be told.
Yeah.
I mean, and a sort of similarly tricky question. I've seen that there have been techniques or tools to automate internal linking. Is the answer the same here?
Well, we do a bit of automation as well. So we have our internal linking tool presents which other articles you wrote, which are pretty similar, because and it helps me a lot when I'm writing for Yoast, because I just forgot what I wrote before because I wrote so many of them. That makes it really hard. So these kinds of tools in which we help you to remember the articles, but you actually pick them yourself. I think they're really, really helpful. And I think the thing you need to remember is always, is this useful for the user? And if it is, then such a tool could be a really nice thing to do. It's just, if automation becomes random, then it's probably not good for your ranking.
I see. Thank you very much. All right, let's see if we have any other questions from our audience. I see from the reactions that people really enjoy the presentation so far.
I also see them clapping.
Yep. Well, in a real event, in a physical event, we would hear the clapping and the applause from the audience and everything, but now we can make do with the with the reactions.
Well, it's really nice to see that. I saw it during my presentation as well. That's a nice feedback.
Yeah, indeed. All right then. So we can wrap things up here. I think this was our last presentation for WordCamp Greece this year. Let's all hope that the next camp we're going to attend will be an actual physical camp and we can all get together wherever it is, in Greece or in the rest of Europe. Perhaps you can stick around for the closing remarks or in a sponsor's booth, in a speaker's booth, so that if any R&D has another question for you, you could answer them.
Of course, and they can also find me on Twitter or in the WordPress Slack. You can ask me questions anywhere.
Yeah, great. So thank you very, very, very much for the beautiful presentations, and
you're welcome.
See you around.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
thank you.